Is ham radio a dying hobby? We'll discuss a few things we can do to change that perception in just a moment. Welcome to New Ham Basics. I'm your host, Greg, KD9ZRO. So, on the topic of the common misconception, actually, if you've ever been on any of the amateur frequencies, you know this is a misconception. Some days it's just so busy and congested that you just can't hardly do much of anything. You're lucky to break through the traffic. But there is a common misconception that amateur radio is a dying hobby, along with the misconception that it's no longer considered vital for communications. At least in my area, our local EMA does employ amateur radio operators in cases of emergency, but that's a whole different subject on its own. The misconception that amateur radio is a dying hobby is exactly that. It's a misconception that amateur radio is a dying hobby. And what causes this misconception is some of the older hams. Respectfully, we call them Elmers. But there seems to be a lot of gatekeeping going on, where some of the Elmers are just not willing to be an Elmer. And clubs, clubs are sometimes bad about it too. My club's pretty good about it, accepting anybody. But I am one of the younger members in the club, and I'm 49 years old, and I'm one of the younger members in the club. And clubs seem to cater to the Elmers, just in a sense that Elmers are about all that's in the clubs. So, one thing we could do to combat this misconception is to do some outreach to the younger operators and the younger potential operators, the younger generation that's interested in amateur radio. We need to be reaching out to them. We need to be training them and inviting them into our social groups and our clubs and those kinds of things. And then you get those that are new operators. They're at technician level, and so they're basically restricted to certain portions of the 10-meter band and 2-meter and 70-centimeter, the VHF and UHF frequencies, and they get on the repeaters, and the repeaters aren't very busy. You might have a net. If they're lucky, there might be a nightly net, for like an hour or so, or there may not be hardly any action at all. It may just be a weekly net. And that discourages a lot of new operators from taking on the general and moving up and advancing and upgrading their ticket. And so a couple of things that I thought of we could do on that aspect to help promote the hobby to not only the younger generations, but the new licensees and those that are looking to get their licenses. A lot of us like Parks on the Air. There are a lot of us that like Summits on the Air. A lot of us that like contesting and DX and that kind of thing. And I mentioned DX because, mainly I'm talking to the United States just because that's where I am. So, if you're in the United States, DX, you're going to be reaching out to the new operators and the younger generation in other countries. But at the same time, those other countries could do the same for us. You get on the air, get on the air once in a while, get on the 10-meter band. Get in those frequencies that those technicians are limited to. Let them see that there is still traffic on the amateur bands. Because I know when I was still just a tech, and of course I only had a 2-meter, 70-centimeter radio at the time, a little handheld, a little HT, and there wasn't a whole lot of traffic. Like I said, we had a nightly net, and then we had our weekly Aries Races net. But that meant that Sunday nights, there wasn't anything going on. You're lucky to hear a little bit of rag chew here and there, early in the morning or at shift change in the afternoons, and that was about it. So, when you get on the air, get on the 10-meter band. Reach out to those new techs, doing summits and parks and contests. Hit that 10-meter band, and hit it hard. Stay there for a little while. Let those new techs see that there's activity on the amateur bands. And parks on the as far as parks on the air and summits on the air in particular go, I know a lot of contesting doesn't go into the UHF and VHF bands, but when you're doing SOTA and POTA, yes, the local operators can, under the right conditions, get you on 40 meter, and if they get lucky and catch you on 10 meter, it's another time when being on 10 meter could be helpful, because you could make those local contacts a little easier. But get on 2 meter at least. 2 meters what's going to land local to you, and allow those local operators to make that contact with you and get that park contact, get that state contact for their awards in POTA at least. I haven't experimented any with SOTA, just because I live in a state that doesn't have, as far as I know, just a few, if any, summits. So I focus mainly on parks on the air. But if I go up to my local park and I get on 40 meter, I might hit the states around me. If somebody's really lucky, somebody in my state might pick me up and be able to have a QSO with me. And I get on 20 meter, then I'm not getting the states around me anymore, so I'm definitely not getting my own state. So, get on that 2 meter band and hang out there for a little while and give these local guys an opportunity to make contact with you as well. Using my state, for example, I live in Indiana, and I've never saw an Indiana POTA operator on 10 meter. Occasionally, I might see them on 40 meter, and if I'm lucky, I might be able to hear them, but I'm still not going to reach them. 20 meter, forget it. They don't even exist to me. But if they were on 2 meter, then I might be able to make that contact with them. I might be able to have that QSO with them, and get Indiana in my logbook, and get that park in my logbook, and get them in my logbook. So just a couple of things we could do to promote the hobby to new operators and the younger generation. Make use of the 2 meter band at least. Make use of the 10 meter band. I know I've seen some contests that go as far as the 10 meter band. Some of them go into 6 meter band. So make use of that 10 meter band. Put some traffic on the 10 meter band for the text to discover. Get some traffic on the 2 meter band. I mean, granted, parks on the air and SOTA and that kind of, and even contesting, you're not really supposed to use repeaters. So you're going to have to do a simplex, but you're still putting traffic on that band for the text to discover, and letting the text know that there are other operators out there, and letting those techs know that, hey, if I upgrade my ticket to the next level, depending on what area you're in, I'm in the United States, if I upgrade my ticket to general, there's going to be more people out there for me to talk to. Instead of leaving these techs sitting out here on 2 meter, 70 centimeter, and portions of 10 meter, dead in the water, because there's no traffic on those frequencies. That does not promote the hobby to them, does not make them want to upgrade their ticket, because they're under the impression, well, amateur radio's dead. Why do I need to upgrade my ticket? I turn on my radio and I never hear anybody. Give them somebody to hear. Hit those 3 main bands that the techs are going to be on once in a while. Give them some traffic, and let them see there is traffic out there. It's just that a lot of us, once we upgrade to our general or our extra ticket, we like to get on the HF bands, because it's easier to make those long distance QSOs on the HF bands. But the techs, they need to see that traffic. The new studying operators that are monitoring, they need to see that traffic on all bands, because and somebody studying, their first step is tech. So what are they likely to monitor? 2 meter, 70 centimeter, and 10 meter. If there's no traffic there, they're either going to get discouraged and not follow through, or once they get their tech license, they're going to get discouraged because there's nobody for them to talk to. Let's put some traffic on those 3 bands promote amateur radio by using the bands that the people are going to start out on, as well as our HF bands. KD9ZRO. Clear until next time.